You're listening to the Behind the Tea podcast. Rob and I are taking a little break this week, but we don't want to leave you hanging without an episode. So we are deciding to pull out an unreleased episode from our vault. We recorded this one a little while ago, so some of our references are already out of date, especially the ones relating to the Super Bowl. However, come back to us next week for our thoughts on the first couple days of the women's world. Enjoy! How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing all right. We took a week off, and wow, Kelly, you take a week off and the mailbag gets filled. It's overflowing.
Oh, I know. It took me so long to go through all our comments.
Most of them are pointing out all the things that we get wrong. We thought this would be a good opportunity to take a moment and acknowledge that so many things that we say here are actually completely incorrect.
We're only human. Humans make mistakes, but I think the fact that we can acknowledge our mistakes and go from there.
And go on to make many more.
Exactly. And then just recorrect them.
That's right. Because we're actually now on YouTube as well. If you haven't checked it out, and anytime we talk about something visual, we want to reference pictures, you can see if you're watching it on YouTube. But because of that, I've had to go through all the old episodes, and yeah, there's a lot of things that we've gotten wrong. Like, for instance, okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say if you want to go on the first one, definitely don't come to us for betting advice and to predict who will win what.
That's right. In an episode from a few weeks ago, I said, I don't even know why we were talking. We often use football as a comparison. And at some point Tom Brady's not making the Super Bowl this year. I'm calling it now. So.
Man, were you wrong?
I was wrong about that.
I mean, to be fair, I was hoping that you would be right about that. And I don't know about you, but I watched that Buccaneers versus Green Bay game, and I was really hoping for Green Bay. It was quite.
I was undecided. I wasn't that. I was kind of indifferent, but I was going, I'm going to get lots of angry messages if Tom Brady pulls this out. And sure enough, the bag was overflowing.
Oh, the man's a legend. I don't know. I was, as a longtime Patriots fan, I was not a fan. I think I've talked about my feelings about this in a previous podcast, but, my thought was that Tom Brady should just retire post-Patriots, kind of keep his legacy intact and whatnot. So I was not a big fan of the move to the Buccaneers, especially, who are the Buccaneers? They don't mean anything. Well, clearly now they do.
They do now. They didn't 12 months ago.
Yeah. So, this episode's going to come out after the Super Bowl. So we're not going to, I don't know if you want to put your bet in as to who's going to win next Sunday.
Oh, I'm going to take Kansas City.
Me too.
I can't see them losing.
Yeah.
Now that I've said that.
But again.
Start planning the parade in Tampa Bay.
All throughout the playoffs, I was like, "Oh, the Bucks aren't going to make this. The Bucks aren't going to win this," and then they pull it out. So We'll see. Me too. I'm gunning for the Chiefs. So catch us next week where we have to swallow our pride and say that we were wrong in our assumptions.
Hey, something else that we were completely wrong about was I was talking about the Continental Cup in one of our old episodes, and I said it was a race to 270 points or whatever it was. And I don't know why I pulled out the number 270. I thought that's what it was. But then I remembered, wait a minute, no, that's the U.S. Electoral College. That's what happens when you record a podcast during a very contentious American election.
Yeah. Do you know what the actual old score was? Because he changed it now that the race, it's like,
right.
I don't even want to say a number because I don't know, but it's a race to 30 or 50 or something like that, right?
I don't know. Yeah. The number 270 jumped out at me. I was corrected on that.
We also learned some new things in our mailbag. In our curling fashion episode, we were talking about the different logos that the provinces use on their shirts for the national events. And we were talking about Saskatchewan, which was a very popular shirt to trade, and how they had what we called the pack of hay, the wheat thing together. Someone wrote in to educate us and tell us that it's called a sheaf. a wheat sheaf.
You learn something new every day.
You learn something new every day. And I'm like, to be fair, how often do you have to refer to a wheat sheaf in daily life? Maybe if you're from Saskatchewan, you do, but as city people in the East, it's not something that comes up in conversation very often.
Hmm. Oh, right. Yes, there was that other thing we got wrong.
Yeah, and then finally, like this, I did not know was such a hot topic.
Yeah, we
One
kicked the hornet's nest on this one.
very controversial opinions on this, and I think we should. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you should, because I think it would be great to put a poll up to see what people's thoughts are on white socks and black pants.
That's right. I thought it was just my mom that was anti White Sox. But no, turns out a large percentage of our listeners are against White Sox.
Now, I don't know if it's a generational thing or whatnot, because I think what we said in the podcast. We were pretty okay with white socks. We are guilty of it. We've done it before, and we've also worn other colored
I
socks.
haven't. I'd be disowned if I did that.
Yeah, so apparently that is I guess we were wrong on that, and we should reevaluate our fashion choices.
Maybe. But I think that's it for the mailbag, right? We're right about everything else.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll let you know if we
All of our
disagree.
opinions are correct and should be followed. Curling Canada, if you're listening, please take all our advice.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess let's get into this week's episode. We're gonna talk about
Well, there's some dead
sorry.
air. Well, last week, right, we talked about or 2 weeks ago because we took a week off, but we were going into how we could get more people to join clubs and how we notice there's a very significant decline in membership all across the country, and what can we do to get more people interested in the sport, especially post-pandemic. There's really not a lot to do now, but hopefully when life is back to normal, whenever that may be, what can we do to get more people in? And what we thought about today was how about getting more people to go see these high level competitions in person, like going
Mhm.
to the Briar, going to the Tournament of Hearts, going to the Grand Slams, and whatever else comes up.
Yeah. And I think the main issue too, like we mentioned in last week's episode, is yes, there's a decline in membership in curling clubs, but the decline is mainly with the younger generations, the
Hmm.
younger age group. We're just not getting the junior curlers staying on or even now attending these games. So kind of we're gonna talk about the problems we see. Maybe kind of look into why some of the younger curlers aren't going to these events, and we're talking about all the season of champion events and the Grand Slams, and then maybe a couple solutions that could be implemented. We don't know, but
I hope so. All I have is problems. I'm just going to do a lot of complaining today. Can I offer a solution? Hopefully, that's where you come in.
but you know what? You can't offer solutions without identifying the problem first, right?
That's true.
So this is the first step. All right. So I guess we can. I don't know how you want to start. If y- I can get, I have two main issues with the events.
Yeah, go for it. I bet we overlap.
And again, this is coming from a millennial's perspective, a 30-year-old longtime curling fan. So we all the one issue is the location of where these events are being held, and they are we are in a tricky situation because Canada is so big, so it is a little hard to um, find a good place to host these events. So if you put it on the East Coast, you're basically going to attract East Coast people. If you put it in Toronto, Ottawa, like Kingston, you'll get the Ontario, Quebec crowd. And then if you have it in Western Canada, you're mainly getting the Western crowd.
Hmm.
So I kind of just went back. You can find this on Wikipedia. Again, great source. So for the Briar, actually, most of them for the past like 10 years have been placed in pretty large cities. So Ottawa, Calgary, Edmonton,
Right.
so that's kind of like I think that's great, the best that they can do. Um, there's only one that was a little random, which was the 2014 Tim Hortons Briar, which was placed in Kamloops.
Right. And I remember that was an Olympic year, so that was right after the Olympics. The Briar was kind of an afterthought that year, so that's the same year we hosted it, or the Tournament of Hearts.
I don't know how good your geography is, but again, Kamloops is in BC, but it's kind of like right in the center of BC, like southern BC.
Hmm.
So it's quite a ways away
Yeah,
from Vancouver.
yeah, I've been there.
Oh, is it? I
Yeah,
hear it's
it's
really
nice.
nice,
It is nice,
actually.
but
Yeah.
in summer. I wasn't there in
Yeah.
March.
But then when you look at the Scotties, it's not as they're not located in such high populated areas. So you just take the 2021, which was in Moose Jaw. Then going from there, there was Sydney, Nova Scotia, which again, quite hard to get to.
Yeah, we had a friend that was there, and he was telling us that just getting on the plane to go home, because also what happens in the Maritimes in March, it snows like heck, and just getting there was quite the ordeal. Even some teams barely made it.
Yeah, and some of the flights, like you have to connect through Halifax
Hmm.
to get there. Going on more from there, Penticton, BC, Grand Prairie, Thunder Bay. Like, come on, Thunder Bay. The closest big city is Winnipeg, which is what, a 5-6 hour drive
Yep.
away. And it's even worse for the Grand Slams. Like some of these places, I actually had to Google Maps because I had no idea where they were. Like Cranbrook, BC, uh, North Battleford,
Oh, I've heard
Wainwright, Wainwright,
Saskatchewan.
Alberta.
Oh, Alberta.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, North Battleford is in Saskatchewan, but still. So basically, my point is a lot of these places are not near big cities. So if you're outside of the greater city area,
Metropolitan area. Yeah.
metropolitan area, you kind of have to fly in and then rent a car to get to these places. And some of them are hour drives away from.
Right. And with all due respect to North Battleford, the demand to go there, I'm no economist, but I'm assuming is very, very low. So it's one of those things you'd like to think that, hey, you actually want to go there. It should be cheap. But of course, that's not how flying works in this country.
Mm-mm.
So uh, to go to somewhere completely remote, it's going to be even more expensive. And because I've thought about it, like when the Briar Tournament of Hearts lines up with my March break, and you've got a week off, like, hey, why not? But then I start to look at how expensive flying to wherever it would be,
Mhm.
and that quickly deters me.
Well, the thing is too, if you're gonna fly to a location, like if you do want to make a trip out of it, it's so far that you're not gonna go for 2 days, right?
Hmm.
You're gonna stay for an extended period of time. So that does increase your hotel costs, your food costs, and whatnot. But also, some of these places don't really want to be there for a full week. I mean, it's one thing if these events were held in Vancouver or Calgary. No, Calgary can
There's
take a
things to
couple
do.
days to go to Banff and whatnot. But for instance, just take an example here. The Women's World Championship was supposed to be in Prince George, which is in northern BC. And I think the closest metropolitan area to that is Edmonton, which again is quite a few hours drive away. But if you were to fly from our home base here in Montreal, and I guess it would be relatively the same if you're flying out of Ontario, like Ontario, is $1,000 round trip. Now,
Wow.
keep in mind, we're going through a pandemic, so flight prices are not standard this year. They're quite, I would say, cheaper. Although for Prince George, I don't know if the prices have been affected by the pandemic. But I also looked at if you're flying out of Calgary, because that's, I would say, probably the biggest metropolitan area closest to Prince George after Vancouver. And still, that was a $632 flight.
Wow.
Plus taken to hotel, which you're looking at minimum another $100 to $150 a night, plus food, plus the package to go watch the actual games, which you can get into in another point. So yeah, I think if you want to attract more people to come to the games, you should just have it in locations that already have a huge population.
That's the tough thing that curling is always going to have is that a lot of the support comes from or participation comes from these outlying regions. And we lived this on a local level when we were competing because the bulk of the teams lived in the Montreal area, but they had really nice clubs out 8 hours away from Montreal that wanted to host the provincials. And they put in the bid. So you got to go.
Well, I think too, it's probably easier to get the ice time or reserve the arena for these competitions in the smaller towns because you're not competing against other sporting events such as the NHL
Hmm.
to get their arena. Because
Yeah.
was it a couple years? The last was it the Brier or the last Olympic trials that was in Canada?
Right. Where the Senators play.
Exactly. So you kind of had to
That's
pick
it.
a
I like
weekend
it
where you.
because it kicks the Senators out for 2 weeks, and they lose all their games, and then Montreal goes higher up in the standing. So I like that part because you don't have to worry about Montreal hosting a Brier at the.
Exactly. And so back to our like original point of trying to get the younger crowd to attend these events. I'm sorry if I have to drop $2,000 to go watch curling somewhere in Canada. I would much rather take that $2,000 and go spend 2 weeks in Europe
Yeah,
or
same
something.
here. And I know we've brought this up before, but that time in Ottawa, or Canada, whatever, uh, that was ideal for us. We live in Montreal. It's a 2-hour drive. So we road trips down just for a weekend. So no flight. We didn't even spring for a hotel. We crashed at your brother's apartment, which was the coldest apartment I've ever been in my life. Um, it was,
It
we,
was I'm just gonna say it was a college
right.
apartment. Yeah.
But it was we cheaped out as much as we could. We all our only expenses were gas, food, and the tickets, and it was still a pretty expensive weekend.
Mhm.
And I love live sports. I feel like people are not as into live sports anymore because TV coverage is so good. I still really get enjoyment from going to see a sport in person, whether it's like an NHL game or just a little university game. I still am interested in it, but it's becoming incredibly pricey.
Well, I totally agree with you. For me, I'm just using another sport as example, baseball. I'm sorry, I cannot stand watching baseball
I'm still
on
trying to talk her
TV.
into this, but
Even if like it's the World Series, I really do not care. However, if someone was like, "Hey, I got tickets to the baseball game. Do you want to go?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." It's like a good experience. I won't be following the game intently. Like,
I'm glad you mentioned that because actually I should ask you because I'm a huge baseball fan. I know you are not,
mhm.
despite my trying to convince you. But like if we were to go to a game, you're not actively paying attention, I'm guessing, to what's going on the field. What do you do at a game?
That's true. I'm not actively paying attention the whole time. I will pay attention to certain parts because there are certain parts of a baseball game that are a little more exciting than uh, other moments during a baseball game. But besides that, I kind of just socialize with the people I'm with. Just if it is nice to kind of go as a big crowd,
Right.
um, and then just yeah, enjoy each other's company, have some good food, have food,
Expensive food, but
expensive beer. Alcohol is quite important. And then if there's just other things that they do to kind of hype up the crowd, so just having like music on the side or whatnot. I think like
yeah, it's
between
interesting.
innings, for instance, or having the mascot. So I know for the Expos no longer exist, but before UP was the mascot for the Montreal Canadiens, he was for the Expos. So he was definitely some cool entertainment.
That's right. He was notorious. He got thrown out of a game once. That's my favorite story.
Hmm.
But
Or even at halftime, like I think in baseball, there's no seventh inning stretch show or anything, but that's kind of what I liked about like the Super Bowl. There's a halftime show, so stuff like that.
this is interesting because I think what you're showing is that maybe it's not through the actual sport itself, but even for people that are not completely interested in whatever the event is, there's still entertainment to be had in going. Uh,
Hmm.
that's something that's difficult for me to accept because when I go to a sporting event, I want to watch the sport, but and it's something that organizations, whether it be curling or professional sports teams, have to acknowledge is that they have to provide entertainment for the people that are just there with their friends or their family who are actually not that interested.
But actually, I think I've been to quite a few sporting events, during my lifetime, and I think it's really hard to really pay attention to what's going on in the game by watching it in the stands. If you really want to, um, like, deep dive into the game and really follow what's going on and get the commentary, you're better off watching at home because you'll get
Yeah,
the instant replays, you'll get, the color commentary, you'll there's less distraction. So if you really just want to like I want to watch the game from a more like technical aspect, then stay at home. But I think that if you're going to the event itself, it is a little more of an entertainment.
that's
Kind of like
really
going
true.
to a rock show or whatever, you know.
Yeah, like the quality of music is probably better if you're at home with your headphones than
Exactly. And
yeah.
sometimes and it's quite a social thing too, you know, because you have, obviously, if you go to sporting games, you have fans there rooting for either team, and depending, where you're, like, sitting, you can just talk to the other fans around you. I know for curling, I've been to quite a few games and just started chatting up with the people sitting next to me, didn't know who they were, but, you
But
know,
yeah,
they're
everybody at a curling event is has to be an awesome person, right?
exactly. They're so friendly.
That's a positive thought.
Yeah. And I actually think on your point, like, I think it's quite hard to follow a curling game while watching it in the stands.
Oh yeah, like you can't see the angle so well. Sometimes like you can't even see one of the houses so well. But there's something about being there that is still
It's the ambiance, you
yeah,
know? You're happy being there and you go with even if you go by yourself or just 1 or 2 like, with a friend, it's a great time, it's something to do, it's something different. If something cool happens, like, you are there to witness it, but
yeah. And this is one of these problems that I don't have a solution to. I'm not an
mhm.
economist. I know that they need to charge a certain amount for tickets, but it really isn't it's hard to justify paying money to go to these things as much as I want to. Like you weren't there for the most recent Briar that we had bought tickets to go to Kingston and right before the shutdown, and you got well maybe COVID. You were very sick, right?
Yeah.
And so you couldn't go. But those were the most expensive tickets yet. They were I think $60 for each draw that we went to
Yeah, but when you think about it, if you because usually there's what 5 games on per draw,
or
right?
four, right at the Briar. Yeah,
Or 4. So if you're paying $60 for the draw and then you divide that by the number of games, it's like, oh, it's actually quite a good deal. You're seeing so many games for one ticket
yeah.
price
That's
compared
why
to
I
like
like
any
it.
yeah, compared
That's
to
why I
any
like the round robin too. Like you get four games rather than
however, you're not actively watching all 4 or 5 games at the same time.
true.
So you're not getting the benefit of watching 5 games like you would on TV.
Oh, yeah, like, when the crowd erupts and you're like, "Oh, shoot, I was watching the wrong sheet. I
Oh my
didn't see
god,
that
I
shot."
know. And so it's in one sense it's nice because I don't know about you, like where you like to sit in the arena when you go watch these games. Some people like to sit in the middle of the sheet so you get an equal view of each end. I prefer picking one end and sitting there.
Yeah, like the traditional curling club view.
Yeah, so you miss basically you only get a good view of every other end, but at least you really get to see and you have a better view of the angles, and if you're close enough to the ice, you can hear the players. But you miss the other end, when they're going the other way. But if the games are timed right, at least there's always one game that is where the house is being like where they're throwing
Where they're
towards
throwing
your
to.
end. Yeah. So there's that, but you're not really following each game. So again, that kind of brings back my point of if you really want to watch the Jacobs versus Kui game and really, focus on that, you're better off just watching at home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I love going to see it live. Uh,
Yeah, there's something nice about it.
Yeah, how do we get more people to do it though? I don't know. I do have some ideas of how. Oh, actually though, because there's other podcasts out there that have
Mhm.
had people suggest things like new apps on their phone or live
Oh,
Instagram things. How do you feel about those?
honestly, I don't know. So, I guess the idea where I got this from was by listening to the Inside Curling podcast, by Kevin Martin. Sort of plug another podcast in, and they had a junior curler write in, and kind of give his ideas of how to get more junior curlers or just younger people into these arenas to watch the games. And one of the suggestions he had was to develop an app,
Hmm.
and through this app, you can have different features. So you can, see stats like live stats. You can add like maybe a betting feature if you're over the age of 18. Order your food ahead of time and stuff like that. And I was not thrilled of the idea. You would think, as a young person like me, who apparently is
We're showing
supposed to
our
be
age.
very tech savvy, um, I think it's just totally a gimmick and really annoying for many reasons. One, I do not want another app on my phone, a useless app that I'm going to download once or twice. Again, like we said, it's not like these tournaments are coming to our area of the country very often. So I don't want that taking up my phone even while I'm there. It takes up battery, takes up data. If you don't want to use data, okay, get on the Wi-Fi. But is the arena gonna have a good Wi-Fi to cater to all the thousands of people who are there? No. Uh, and I'm kind of like annoyed with the whole app craze because I feel like every company, every event just wants to have an app when it's just, let's keep it old school. There's no need for it. Put stuff on the jumbotron. I'd much rather watch the jumbotron than to be on my phone all the time.
Yeah, that's how we
And
live every day of our life. We
yeah, and it could be cool. Like, I mean, I guess they can have one and you use it if you want. But if you take, for example, movie theaters, right? Uh, movie theaters have seen a decline in people coming to view movies for quite a
Yeah, that was
while.
true
And
pre-pandemic, right?
yeah, they're really suffering. Um, and they kind of came out with an app. This is Cineplex here. I don't know what other theater chains across Canada have. But basically, you can download the app, and then before the movie plays, they have like trivia style questions that everyone who's in the theater can participate in using the app. And then if you win points, you can then trade your points for food or stuff like that, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool. Okay, sure. I'm like sitting here waiting anyways for the movie to start. But having this app is not going to make me want to go to the movies more. I'm not going to be like, "Oh, let's go to the movies because oh, I
I
have a
wanna play
chance
with the
to
app.
win." Yeah, or I have a chance to win free food. No. What's going to make me go to the movie theaters is decreasing the price of a movie.
Yes, and I completely agree with you. That doesn't happen often, does it? But no,
No.
I completely agree that, I think, like, an app for or what this person was it can't hurt, I
Mhm.
don't think, unless it's, like, super expensive to develop. I don't think it can hurt, but I don't think it's gonna pull anybody in.
No, it's not a
If I were
solution.
there, maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't, but it's not gonna draw anybody in.
No.
And that's the problem we're trying to solve is how do we draw people in? I don't know the answer, but I do know I have a few ideas of what's not the answer.
Well, do you wanna go into, your list of problems here?
I think so. One of them, I know we've brought up this disgrace of a mascot before. That's pretty harsh, isn't it? We
Yeah.
brought this up on our commercials episode, but Angus McStone. There was a expensive Curling Canada initiative or marketing campaign with which I think was just kind of offensive, first of all. But this stereotype Scottish guy holding a torch, going like, "Be there for history in the making, not the Tim Hortons Briar." I wonder how good that is. Probably not good at all. Sorry,
So you
but
just offended all of our Scottish,
yeah,
listeners.
I'm quoting, but it's laughable. It's cringe-inducing, I think, and,
Mhm.
the we're curlers who are gonna go anyway if it's in our neck of the woods, but my question was when they had that Angus guy was, is anybody being drawn in by this? I think if anything, non-curlers are probably looking at this and laughing, and not laughing at, "Ha that's funny." They're making fun of us.
Here's my opinion. I think it's a great initiative, just poorly executed. Um, yeah, I kinda agree with you that Angus McStone is not maybe not the best mascot, he's a little cringy, and you compare Angus McStone to Youppi, for instance, I would be much happier to see Youppi there than Angus McStone. But I think it could be cool to have a mascot. Like they have every sports team has one. Baseball games, Youppi was infamous for getting in trouble a lot, but he was really entertaining.
Mhm.
I think we talked about this once. Like a baseball game. I don't remember what year it was, but like back in the 70s or the 80s, and Youppi jumped on the dugout of the
That's
opposing
right.
team
Tommy Lasorda.
pretending to he had, like, his blanket and everything,
Yeah, because it was
pretending to
a 20-inning game, it went very late.
and, yeah, anyways, he got he actually, he's the only mascot to ever get expelled from a professional game.
That's
Like, the
right.
ref
A little
kicked
bit
him
of
out.
trivia. That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they have a mascot that would, like, go through the stands and just have them, like, do funny things, like, it's interesting for the crowd, it could liven up certain moments of a curling game that are pretty dull, especially if you know it's the fifth end and the score is still 1-1. You know, it could be a good
Yeah.
marketing tool. And again, that mascot would be used as a marketing promotional thing.
Yeah, and they've had mascots before, and, they've,
No.
I just I'm looking for the thing that's gonna bring people in, that we can show to non-curlers, that's gonna make them wanna go to the Briar. That is the elusive thing that I don't think anybody has the answer to, and I just think Angus was very far from the answer. I think if anything, that probably did more damage than good. I think it just had people laugh derisively at us.
I think in order to get non-curlers in, I think you have to just promote the sport or have a professional type league and market the players accordingly.
Yeah, maybe.
Because like if we go back to the NFL, for instance, I'm not a huge football fan. I'm never going to play football in my life. And even then, I don't know much about the sport, but there's something that's interesting about, just picking a team. Now, how do I pick my teams? Like, it's not, I mean, it's
How do you do it, Kelly?
very, well, let's say the color of the uniform,
Mhm.
the attractiveness of some of the players. Let's be real. It's okay to, objectify them every once in a while. And then also just the what's the word I'm looking for? The
Whether they employ Tom Brady or not.
oh my god, no, I'm gonna cut this out.
No, you can't cut that, that's good.
Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Their how people perceive them, like their
Okay, yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, public perception.
No. It'll come to me. Anyways, yeah, so like for instance, Patriots fan because yeah, Tom Brady is good, but the Patriots were a good team. Like, love their uniform, love their players. So, closest city to my hometown. So,
Basically, if Curly never comes back, we're just gonna shift this podcast to be a football podcast.
pretty much. Where you can talk as if because you actually know what you're talking about, and then I'll just give the perspective of
That'd be good.
armchair the armchair NFL fan.
Armchair quarterback. That'd be a good,
Yeah.
there's I
Maybe we'll
think
do our
that's
spinoff.
yeah. But actually on that note for football, because we were chatting about this a couple of weeks
Reputation is
reputation, there we go.
oh my god, we got there.
This is a really
Okay,
good episode.
I'm sorry, please let's move on to the next point.
But still on football, because we were chatting the other day, about like we're doing this during the NFL. We record on Sundays. We usually do it in the afternoon so that we can go and watch football after because there's not much else to do these days.
Mm-mm.
Um, we were talking about how one of the NFL games was on Nickelodeon, and
Oh,
how
yes.
at first I read that and I was like laughing again derisively, going, "What a joke! What a That's just stupid to me." But then the more I thought about it, even though I was probably pretty cringe-inducing from what I read, like how they gave the MVP of the game to Mitch Trubisky, who only put up 3 points, and he's not a field goal kicker; he's the quarterback.
Abby's cute.
That's it. Kids liked him apparently. So I thought that was really gimmicky and cheesy, but then I thought about it, and I don't think this problem is unique to curling. I think a lot of sports are having trouble bringing in younger generations, and even though I roll my eyes at this kind of thing, I'm guessing it was probably a pretty good idea to try and reach out to kids through this,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it. What do you think?
I kinda liked it, to be honest. It'd be interesting to see what, like, the outcome of it, if it actually did bring in like, what the viewership rate was
Yeah,
for
I'd
those
be
games,
curious.
and if it was successful for Nickelodeon. Um, but yeah, I think it's kinda cool. I remember as a kid, so my brother and my dad were big sports fans, so Sunday night football, Monday night football, oh my god, baseball season was just the amount of fights we had to, like, get because I wanted to
TV.
watch TV, but no, baseball's on and we gotta watch baseball. But it was kind of boring for me to watch. Again, like, I didn't care much about the players and or the sport. Um, but maybe, yeah, having if we did have the Nickelodeon channel and have something that was maybe more geared towards kids, um, and by that I mean like on Nickelodeon, which is really cool. Whenever they scored a touchdown, they had this CGI on top of the teams in the end zone being like sludged with because
Right.
like that's a Nickelodeon thing, right? All the
That's their
slime
thing, right?
to get
Yeah.
your slime. So for curling, obviously, maybe not do the slime, but to have maybe junior commentators or kids commentating on the
That'd be
game,
interesting.
but maybe like an adult who actually kind of knows what he's talking about and can maybe gear the conversation. But yeah, kind of get the kids' perspective on it, but then also it could be a little educational. So they're actually like explaining the game a little more and maybe saying, like, oh, why are they throwing
Yeah.
the hit in this case? Or, would you
Yeah.
peel in the second end? Reference to our podcast about the 2009 Men's World. So I think it'd be pretty cool. And obviously, with technology now, you can add all the CGI graphics and
Yeah,
just
you
make
can
it
put, like,
more.
SpongeBob's face on the button or something like that. Because I think that's what the other thing was, right? They were kicking field goals towards a giant image of SpongeBob or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a 10-year-old kid, sure, I'd watch that, or I'd be more inclined to watch it than, just the regular, like, TSN feed.
It would be interesting. Yeah, it's, food for thought.
Yeah, I'm sure there's, like, a lot of investment and money involved into getting this kicked off, but
Yeah, I mean, I've rolled my eyes, like I said, but, really, if it can get people interested, then, I mean, who are we to say?
maybe it would help the retention of junior curlers moving on to
Maybe
playing
so,
as
yeah.
an adult. I like that idea. Not against it. What if so you know how we talked about when you go to a curling game, there's usually 4 or 5 games on per draw,
Mhm.
and that makes, it quite difficult to focus on one game at a time. But it also makes it difficult for the organizers to make the game a little more fun for the viewers to watch or like interactive. If you just compare to any other professional game, like in the NFL, there's always a halftime show for hockey. They're always like blaring music between game stops and whatnot. The Zamboni have people throwing T-shirts into the crowd or
Mhm.
something like that. But because curling, there's so many games going on at the same time, and they're not timed exactly, so they won't all have the 15 break at the same time. What would your thoughts be on moving to like one feature game at a time?
You mean, like, only one game at a time?
Yeah.
I don't like it at all, just because, what if somebody takes 5 in the first end?
Oh, right.
Yeah, what I really like about when I go see these things live and why I prefer to go to the round robin games is that if the game on sheet B is a runaway, you just focus your attention elsewhere, and what I don't wanna have happen is you have one game going on and it's not interesting. So, I don't know. I mean, I want to be flexible. I think that any idea, like you were saying, if we can get more entertainment in there, can't hurt. But I don't
Mhm.
think it solves the problem of bringing people in who are
Yeah.
non curlers to begin with. And I don't know. I think also we have to acknowledge that all these changes we propose, we got to be careful with the traditions. And I'm somebody who can do away with traditions. I call myself a
Can
traditionalist.
you really, Rob?
I
Okay.
think I can. I'm just, but I don't know. Um, Blasting music in between shots.
But you can't do that when there's multiple games going on.
Yeah.
Like, the best you can do is maybe add more animation, on the jumbotron, and
Hmm.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. We got
Even
to get.
so
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say another thing from this episode that I listened to from Inside Curling. Um, the person that wrote in also said, it's kind of hard to bring in, like he's a curling fan, but it's kind of hard to bring in some of his friends who aren't curlers because, yeah, they find it kind of boring. And he compared it again to an NHL game where people would cheer and taunt the other team and I don't know if you've been to NHL game, a Canadians game here in
Mhm.
Montreal, but the
Oh, of
last one
course.
I went to was the Habs playing against the New Jersey Devils when Subban, who it or
Oh, right.
is and was a very favorite Canadians player, moved to the Devils, and then whenever Subban got the puck, they would just boo him. So you can't do something like that in curling. Like you can't cheer for the good you can't cheer for the bad shots, you can't taunt players, you can't. So there's that kind of aspect that you do see in other professional sports that you can't really do in curling because
Are you saying we should change that?
I don't
I know.
know.
I'm very weird about it. Like
Like
it's
because the thing is curling is such a puts so much emphasis on sportsmanship and it's just not cool to taunt
yeah. That's
players.
something I think like you just said. I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah.
I have no
However,
problem. Oh, go ahead. Go
well, no,
ahead.
I was gonna say, however, we have been noticing that the games are getting quite boring to watch just because the players are so good. And so adding a level of crowd interaction to psych the players out could add an additional challenge to them and trying to stay focused and on the game versus
Yeah.
getting psyched out by some fans. I don't know.
I it would make it interesting. I'm trying to keep an open mind on everything, but that's something I wouldn't touch. I think the respectability of the game is something that really is fundamental, and that's not something I would play around with. Just because I think we're trying to also, if we're bringing in people, we're trying to teach them life lessons from curling. I think, and or at
I
least I
don't
don't know.
like yes, true, I understand that, although should sporting events be places where you learn life lessons?
Well, but the whole sport in general is
Oh, yeah.
like we're trying to make a case. Like I was listening to our last episode about how we should make the point that curling is better than hockey. Do
Mhm.
not get your kids in curling. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Yes, get your kids in curling. It's better than hockey. It's cheaper, and they're going to learn a lot from it and be uh, better people. Oh boy, that's really controversial.
Better people, I would support I can,
You know what I mean, though. I
yeah.
don't mean that if you're a hockey player, you're disrespectful. Of course not. I just
No,
mean though that it's there's a lot of good that can come out of
yeah,
pursuing curling.
but you have a point because 'cause I'm sorry, but hockey players do have a reputation. It's
Some of
there.
them do. Some of them do.
Some of them do. But yeah, but I do think that definitely the players would not be a big fan of more crowd interaction, and we can kind of just see that just from the Olympics. I think it's something that comes up every Olympic. Not the last one, but I want the one before. Maybe it was the Vancouver one, where it was incredibly loud in that arena to the point where like the players on the ice couldn't even hear each other. Like the
Yeah.
skips had a hard time communicating with the players at the other end of the sheet. And again, the great thing with the Olympics is that it brings a crowd of people that who aren't curlers who know nothing about the sport because they're just like, I want Olympic tickets, and sometimes the curling ticket is the only one they can get. So there were issues of, getting the vuvuzelas in there, people cheering at missed shots for the other team and stuff like that. And I do remember it was always a big complaint from the
Yeah,
players.
and I know that's hard.
But everyone in the crowd loved going to watch the curling games. So
Well, it's true, but that's because Canada won, and it was in Canada.
no, but every year,
But
like
it's true, yeah,
the
it
curling
got a lot
events
of
are
attention.
is one of the more popular events, and I'm gonna say the crowd is rowdier there than compared to one played in North Battleford, Saskatchewan.
I dare say that's true.
You know, also the average age is quite different,
Yes.
but
It's funny, I was there actually, in Vancouver, and, I went to a game, and it was interesting because I was one of the few people, I think, in the arena that was an actual curler. It's not a thing that we're used. Oh, and the other thing is you walk up and there's people scalping curling tickets.
oh wow,
"Who needs tickets? I got tickets behind the 8 foot. I got tickets behind the hog line." It was really funny.
oh that's really funny. Can you imagine going to a curling event and
Scalping tickets. It
helping
happened.
tickets? Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
But you know what? One thing that I can come around on is that, and I know a lot of people had a hard time accepting this, is I don't really want to change the fundamental respect of the game. I think that's something that should be preserved at all costs. But um, one thing I do kind of like is people showing emotion. And
In what sense?
uh, okay, I'm not going to mention. Okay, yes, I will mention names. Brad Jacobs comes
Yeah,
to mind. He's made some shots and has had some very visual displays of
enthusiasm.
enthusiasm, let's use that word. He's and I know that's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and to me, I don't think that's disrespectful. He's a good
Mhm,
curler, he made a heck of a shot, let him celebrate. He's not
yeah.
taunting the other team. It'd be different if he were doing that if the other team missed. He's enjoying his own shot. That kind, because if we're talking about letting the I don't think we should start mocking players or doing anything disrespectful. I think this is fair game though, letting people show their emotion and
Yeah, because it is kind of frowned upon to be overly excited about a well-made shot, especially if like it's good for your team, but really bad for the other team.
yeah. I mean, I remember being in the curling club once and there was a game with Brad Gushu on and he made a really nice shot and he gave this little fist pump. Just
Huh.
very innocent fist pump and some okay, I'm going to get
Oh.
old guy there like that is so disrespectful. He should put his hand down. Come on, let them celebrate.
Oh, do you know what would be great? Again, referencing NFL here. So, I again, some people don't
Touchdown
like this.
dances.
Touchdown da
Yes.
okay, so I know, so I'm gonna throw my dad under the bus here, but he hates the touchdown dances. He thinks it's, like, ridiculous, over the top, like, you scored your touchdown, move on. I personally love it, and some of the teams have gotten so creative with their dances. I remember a couple years ago, the Minnesota Vikings, they did a curling one where they they had one guy kind of pretend to throw a rock, and then two other guys were like sweeping. I don't know. I think it's great. Maybe that one was a little over the top, but a little dance is nice. So maybe yeah, if a skip makes a great shot to win the end, the whole team can do a
I
little
think
jig.
so. Yeah, and that's something that, the NFL used to throw flags on that all the time, and I think they realized that they looked at the writing on the wall and realized people like this. Uh, not some people, but people are generally like this, and so they've started to allow it.
And here's the thing too, all of these little, touchdown dances and like other sports have other things too, but, like, you can all find them on YouTube, like, compilation of best touchdown dances. I'm sure you can find them on TikTok now, not that I'm not on it, but I'm sure,
Yeah,
um
TikTok is where I draw my, social media line.
exactly, or Instagram stories, whatever, you name the social media platform, but, like, that's a thing that can go viral if it catches on or it's pretty cool. Maybe players have their, catch dance if you want, so they're, like, known to do certain, things. Gronkowski, he does the, like, football slam on the touch in the end zone.
Somebody should pick up a rock and slam it a la Gronkowski.
Oh my god.
That'd be fun to watch.
I'd love to see Gronkowski come and play curling and then just try to do that if he makes a draw to the button or something. He
That'd be great.
probably could just by his sheer size.
Yeah.
But something like that. So, I mean, and that again is really good to help promote the sport. It gets the sport out there. Everyone loves to watch 5-second viral videos. So it's an opportunity for
Yeah, and I know we're running long here, but one more question for you. I know my mom's gonna hate me for saying this, but because I'm talking about showing emotion, I kind of mean both ways too. Like you make a great shot and you celebrate. Would you be
Oh,
okay with seeing somebody miss a shot and just breaking their broom over their knee? We have
yes,
seen that before, but I kind of want to
absolutely.
watch people do that.
Yeah, I am totally I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a good look for the player sometimes, but I would yeah.
I wonder. It's a bit of a now my mom is like I can fear her I can feel her yelling at me from here.
There's also a fine line to respect. If you're
Mhm.
just, getting overly angry because you missed your tick shot, like, if you're a lead and you miss your tick shot, like, calm down, okay? Like, there's many more rocks to come in the end. Um, but if it's something like your rock pick on a very important shot that would affect the rest of the end, or seeing skips get overly pissed, I don't
Yeah.
know.
There's a lot we can say about the we probably don't have time to get into
Mm,
now, but I mean, I think I'm okay with it.
yeah,
What I don't have any, because this is a huge topic that we could get into, but what I think is not acceptable is if you damage the ice, that's damaging the playing surface. If you
yeah.
damage the locker room or do anything like that, that's completely di
Yeah,
unacceptable
like,
in
for
my mind,
instance,
but
if you miss a shot, like, if you wanna break your own broom across your
go ahead.
thigh, go for it, but do not take your broom and smash it, like, do, like, a Hulk,
Yeah, and I
throwing your broom
actually
into the
yeah,
ice, like, that's crossing the line, but if you want to, I don't know,
yeah, break your
throw it
own
in
broom. It's
throw it
$200.
into the boards in your broom bag, fine, go for it, and again, it's a talking point, yeah?
Yeah, and it's actually it's something that's that what we should explore just because, one thing that I don't like about it is that they're really strict on it, like, you can
Mhm.
miss a shot, mutter something under your breath, but if you're near an official, you could get in trouble, but we
Yeah.
see on TV that that standard is not enforced, that, certain people will miss their tick shots and then kick rocks.
Not naming any names here.
No, but how many times have you seen a particular team not play an end very well, and they don't put the rocks away, they launch them away.
Oh, yes, yes.
I'm thinking like, what if we did that? So I don't know how I feel. Like part I kind of want people to be more open-minded and be like, let them show a little bit of emotion, but at the same time, not all of those things I like. So I don't know.
Mhm. But at the same time, I think it just adds a good dimension to the game because it does play with, your, like, thought process
Yeah.
and whatnot, and then just psyching yourself, or if you're the other team, let's say you just took a five-ender and the other team is, like, slamming the rocks in the other like, towards, their side of the sheet, you're kind of your team feel good. You're like, "Oh, we have the upper hand in this game," and so that just kinda adds to the whole player team dynamic, game dynamic.
I just have one more thing I think, and it's
Okay.
just again, not that this is going to solve anything, but one thing that couldn't hurt is to have strong social media
Presence.
outputs, presence, whatever. Not that I know anything about this. Um,
We have a hard time promoting our own podcast.
that's true, but yeah, like it's you had to explain to me how Instagram works, so that's a bit of a team effort between the two of us. But when I think of curl, oh, hold on, I've got some breaking news, Kelly. Are you sitting down?
Yes.
Okay, this
What
is
happened?
breaking news. Curling Canada is excited to announce that BKT Tires and OK Tire are going to be the title sponsors of the 2021 BKT Tires and OK Tire World Men's Curling Championship.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
I know, but can you
What's
believe it?
BKT Tire? I've never heard of this company before.
I don't know. Yeah, they sound like two rival tire company. No wonder
Yeah.
this is such breaking news.
Did you just get, like, a notification pop up?
No, I took that from Curling Canada's Facebook page.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I've now I
What
know
was
I
it
don't.
before? Ford's Men? Was it hosted by Ford?
Oh, I don't even know. I think so, or Pioneer or something, or Ford at some point.
I mean, I would think Ford had a lot more sponsorship
Yeah,
money to give. I don't know.
maybe. Yeah, but I know that there's good people behind Curling Canada and their
Mhm.
social media thing, but I every time, because I have them on Facebook, every time I get something from Curling Canada, not every time, but a lot of them, I roll my eyes and go, "Who cares?"
Yeah. I'm sure they can hire some young intern who's doing a bachelor's in communication or like digital marketing or something like that.
Maybe
Um,
because I
but that's
mean,
something that comes up all the time. Like every point, like in our last episode, how can curling clubs boost membership? Work on your marketing. How to get more people in the stands? Prove your marketing. Like it's just all marketing, which I think curling in Canada is kind of lacking.
right, and I know that they need to get their sponsors out there, and I know that but really,
Mhm.
I read these things, and a lot of them are like breaking news. The next year or in 2023, the Canada Cup will be in Flin Flon or something like that. I get your
Mhm.
tickets now for 3 years from now.
Yeah.
I I roll my eyes at all of that, and
But they also a lot of the marketing is already geared towards curlers. I think they just need to take some of that budget and put it into marketing that targets the non-curler or the person who would be interested. And on top of that, gear it towards the Gen Z kids, the
like
teenagers and
like the behind the tee Instagram page.
exactly. Uh, well, I guess this wraps up
Shameless.
to this week's episode. If you have any ideas of what organizers can do to like help promote attendance at these like season of champion and grand slam events, definitely leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or you can write us an email at behindthetee.podcast@gmail.com, or like we've talked about a lot in this episode, you can follow us on Instagram at behindthetee.curling.
That's right. We'll mention you on the air as being breaking news.
All right, bye.
Take care.